is Talk.
Back tomorrow morning from 10. Mike here from 6 with Morning Glory. It's the way you wake up and take you through the day here on Talk, the home of common sense and free speech. 80 minutes to 5. We're live across the UK. This is JK. On the way, Stephen Wolfe, migration expert. He might have a thing or two to say about Nigel Farage as well. But we're into the voice note section. I hope they're mentioning that Ryan had a turn. Tom, go.
Got to stop the reform hysteria going on right now. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, for Nigel to get a majority in the next election, he's got to take the centre with him and even some of the centre left. I mean, come on.
Is that it? Oh, come on. Right. Brilliant. I sort of agree with Tom. I mean, Richard's already debunked this country. He's on the Costa del Sol. He said, I still believe in reform and I trust Nigel to deliver. This is just a slip and it's part of growing up as a political party. Tony with an IE on reform. Go.
Farage ain't changed his tune. Rupert has just come out and said things that maybe he shouldn't have said, that should have been kept in-house or sorted out in-house. So it's typical, same old stuff. And what's happening is toleration. No one can tolerate the not knowing. So if Farage don't say nothing, then they make up their own fairy tales. At the end of the day, that's a problem with the whole society and anxiety. And on no degree has Farage stopped talking about immigration. But, yeah, Lowe has to go, I'm afraid. If you can't play ball in the team, get out the team.
That's Tony with an IE, 03444 499 1000. Text to 87222. You might want to talk about reform. You might want to talk about the fact that 4 of the big 6 British energy companies, including my friends British Gas and Octopus, are forcing households to have smart meters fitted and saying we're no longer fitting dumb meters. So are we going all green and are we heading towards net zero even if we don't want to? I remember about a year ago there were stories on this station about people whose houses were being broken into by the people providing them with their energy supply. Outrageous. Tell me what you think of that. 0344 499 1000. He is a migration expert. He is a former MEP. Was he ousted by Nigel Farage? Stephen Wolfe, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very well. Good afternoon to you.
Come on, you're not getting away with it. What do you make of this current situation? You see, just to give you the view, most people contacting this show are saying this is a shame. We believe in this product. We believe it's what's needed. Please don't drop the ball. Was this always likely to happen, Stephen?
I'm afraid, unfortunately, it is. And it's something that really is desperately disappointing and quite upsetting. It's upsetting for those thousands of members of Reform, those who'd come from UKIP, Brexit Party, new ones that have joined Reform as well, who've put their hard-earned time, money, energy, and more than anything else, their hope that there would be a transformative party that would change the way that we have in our lives. Brexit was about enthusiasm. You could see it. The Reform Party and people now supporting it is about desperation of our country, desperation that we're having to pay so much, mass immigration, costs of energy that you've already talked about just a few moments ago. And this was bound to happen because, unfortunately, as it did with me, as it did with Susan Evans, Douglas Carswell, Godfrey Bloom, all the way back in time to people who've challenged Nigel, Nigel cannot deal with people who are as good as him or seem to be rising in the party. He is not a team player. It's I only. And that's not how you're going to win in an election. You can't be all about you. It's got to be about the team.
I agree with that, but I would also like to balance it by saying to you that there would be nothing if it wasn't for Nigel Farage. In terms of electoral ability, if you went amongst the British public, with respect to everybody you've just named, they wouldn't know any of those people. They would know Nigel Farage. I'm not saying, by the way, I don't think it's an important point to make to you, Stephen. You're absolutely right. Going from being a protest small party to being taken seriously, you have to learn to delegate. You have to be clever, don't you? You have to give your biggest enemies the most difficult jobs. You have to. That's what it's all about, isn't it? It's a game of chess. But this, I don't know whether it will go away or not. Many of you are saying that it was always going to happen. For me, the bigger issue is as you said, the belief that it had instilled in so many people and where that might go. Because I don't want Labour after the next 4 years. I want them gone. But if Reform continues to squabble or can't find its feet or its leader won't listen to anybody, Labour will get back in because the Tories are not doing anything, are they? At all.
Well, that's exactly the point. That's why so many people are still sticking with reform in the hope that there will be somebody that can actually challenge the Labour Party as it is. But I would say this at the moment. We're about to go and talk about immigration. As you're seeing Nigel Farage and reform tack towards the centre and more towards the left, you're seeing the Conservative Party come out with much stronger immigration policies. Today, we're talking about giving those child asylum seekers proper tests. Well, they started that in 2016, never carried it through, but now they're determined.
Scientific age checks today as well announced. Yesterday, they were deporting foreign criminals, and I put it to at least 2 of them, Stephen, yesterday, which I would still be saying is, I heard nothing about that in the last 14 years.
Absolutely. And I think what's happened is you've got Robert Jenrick, you have finally some people in the Conservative Party recognising that they'll never succeed against the current tide of political energy that came from reform unless they actually really do the things that they say they were going to do. And that's one thing that the Conservative Party have failed on. They say one thing and never do it. We'll stop the boats. No, you didn't. And that is where they are now. And I think they're having to become more realistic about it. They will always have the problem, because of what's happened over the last 14 years, of whether people will believe them. And that is down to their leadership. But as I say, you've got the infighting because of Nigel only believes he's got the answers to everything. And he can't accept other people challenging him. And the real nail in the coffin, I think, for Rupert Lowe was when Elon Musk said that he was important, could lead the party, and Nigel didn't have it. I think that was really the point where Nigel's going, I'm not going to stand for this anymore. And it's unfortunate because Nigel is an important politician in this country. I've always said that. But his weakness is his inability to lead.
Do you think he'll walk away from reform or keep the fight going?
No, he'll keep the fight going because
do you think this will affect reform? Do you think it will mess with them in terms of their support levels and where they were hoping to be?
I think what we're going to see at the moment is it's not feeding down into the general public, and that's what reform and Nigel Farage has always recognised. Whenever he's dealt with people all the way back to I can't remember the Labour MP that came over to UKIP at the time. When he's got rid of them, it's never really fed down to the public. And I think he's hanging on to this and the polling. Where it will really have an impact is if what we're hearing is that Elon Musk is talking to Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib and others to form a potentially new challenger party. If that comes in, then I think you'll see a really massive break. But we've got Welsh elections coming up, local elections coming up. I expect them to do reasonably well. But I do not expect them to make the breakthrough that they've got because they're not using their talents well enough.
Really good to have you on, Stephen. It's always a pleasure, and we really, really do appreciate it. Stephen Wolfe, former MEP. Tell you what I'd like to try and do, right? Probably no chance. You've got 10 minutes. See if you can get Ben Habib on. Stephen Wolfe just said he reckons that Elon Musk is having a conversation with Rupert Lowe and maybe Ben Habib about a new challenger party. Let's see if we can get an answer. This is Talk Drive.
think what Kemi's doing, in all honesty, is saying, how do we stop any of the pull factors that are bringing people to the shores? So yes, we know we've got to stop the illegal immigrants. We would have the Rwanda scheme, and I'd still bring back the Rwanda scheme or replace a third country you could send them to. So this is another way in saying, if you do come here, it's not going to be the free ride you thought it was. You're going to have to pay back your housing costs.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Phone lines are just a jiff. David, on reform, voice note, go.
Reform is Nigel Farage. And those MPs and former MEPs know Nigel Farage. And it wouldn't be anything without Nigel Farage. So let's get on with it. Stop all this chest beating and just get on with what they got to do.
Let's go to Cambridge. Martin, who's 60 today. What a great age, Mark, you old git.
Hello, Jeremy. Yeah, they always say you're only as young as a woman you feel. So anyway.
Well, I'm 60 in about 4 months, but my wife is 42, so we keep fighting. What you got for me, Mark?
Yeah, well, basically what it is, I think for Nigel, he needs to calm down a bit. He's starting to come across as slightly, I don't want to use this word, but it's unhinged. It's, almost over the top. And I think what we need to do is to have more people coming onto the media, more official spokespeople. Because, let's be honest, it's a bit like the Portuguese international football team. It's been based around Ronaldo, but without a good back four in the midfield, you're not a good team, are you?
I think there is no doubt, and this is me as a person who voted Reform. We've been brought up all their life Tory and voted Tory, but was so completely put out the last election. I make no secret of the fact I voted for Reform, and I make no secret of the fact that I share many of your frustrations, everybody who's listening, that it seems to be a bit of a blip. There's no doubt there's no Reform without Nigel Farage. There's no doubt he's a charismatic, consequential politician who's made a huge, huge difference. But there is also no doubt that in life, whether you're building a political party, whether you're building a business from a small one-man band to a successful business, you have to learn to harness, use, utilise, spread out, whatever you want to call it, talent. And if we are going to have a party that has different forms of talent, then he is going to have to learn to work with them. Listen, for me, I'm with you. I think it would make great sense for Nigel Farage to come out of the cold, the dark, if you like, the cold, and speak, because I think that would do people a huge, huge service. Martin, happy 60th today in Cambridge. Let's head to Hampshire. Laura Jane, you're on Talk Drive. Couple of minutes. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm thinking of Churchill, whose career was extremely bumpy until the Second World War. He had the most terrible moments where he really was criticised and loathed, and he wasn't very good at listening to other people, and he wasn't good at taking advice, and he was very bullish in his approach to his political philosophy. But and the same in a way with Margaret Thatcher. So, to be a great leader, you aren't always good at listening to other people and taking advice. But
there's a difference, isn't there? The difference is, and I get that, I'm not having a go at all, completely agree. And I believe that we severely lack, not in Nigel, but we lack politicians who have the conviction to stand by what they feel or what they believe in. And they're not bothered if they get thrown media scrutiny, legal scrutiny, populist scrutiny. And there's a great example in America. The problem is Nigel's trying to build a party, right? He's trying to build a party that might be very popular, but needs MPs to be, if you like, a part of the next government, be it a part of it or the next government. So the question for everybody, for me, it's really simple. Is he, in an attempt to become more acceptable to some parts of the establishment, some people in Reform will jump up and down, dropping the rhetoric a little bit whilst Lowe's still giving it large, which is fine because Farage gave it large, but maybe he's just a grown-up politician. I don't know. I don't think Elon Musk helped it at all. I think he might be in Lowe's ear. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
It's a pity that Anne Widdecombe hasn't given the two men a bit of a shake-up, because I think
she just smack him around the head with her handbag.
Exactly, and it's a great pity. I mean, maybe she's doing it behind the scenes. And I also wanted to say that I was disappointed in Ben Habib, who I slightly hero worship. I was disappointed in the way he really did, pardon my French, slag off Rupert Lowe and Nigel, and gave some unnecessary comments, which I felt...
Was this morning with Julia?
Yeah, it was almost like he was trying to get everything off his chest at once, and he was.
Well, I'm gonna get him on in 10 minutes if I have my way, because I wasn't able to listen to that amazing interview. Everyone's been telling me how brilliant it was.
I've always hero worshipped him, but I was slightly disappointed in how he, he kind of put more wood on the fire, as it were. I can't remember the expression I'm trying to think of, but I feel that everyone should calm down a bit. Anne Widdecombe should use her handbag, and we should get on remembering what reform is all about.
Does it change your belief in the product?
No, because I'm so desperate for an answer to our country's problems that I feel I should remain loyal to what reform and what I, think that we need for this country.
Tim Montgomery, who was a big cheese in the Tory party and defected several months ago, was on the show at 4 o'clock, and he said, this is a blip. The concept stays the same. This is what happens when political parties are growing, and it happens all the time. Look at what happened with Trump and Zelensky, for God's sake. Now he's going back to the White House, allegedly. Listen, really great to have you on, Laura Jane in Hampshire. Thank you. Whereabouts in Hampshire, by the way?
Stockbridge.
Very posh. Very nice. Thank you very much indeed for tuning in. So this is Talk, home of free speech and common sense. JK back after the news. I'm talking about myself in the third. What's gone on? I need a biscuit. Lacking sugar. 0344 499 1000 is our telephone number. Our Jodie is here. She's delighted Liverpool are out of the Champions League. So am I, because I'm going to rip into Sam Ellard at 5:45. You can text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. We, though, heading towards the news at 5, which is next on the home of free speech and common sense. This, my friends, is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back a couple of minutes past 5. We're live across the UK. Welcome to Drive on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. JK at the controls till 7. Thank you so much indeed, by the way, for tuning in. I love this from Jane. Jez, your hair is fine. It is fine. It's thinning. I've just got this bit that's woggling. She stopped playing with it. All right, OK, fair enough. Cliff's in Berkshire. Good afternoon, Cliff. I wonder if Nigel Farage has rode back on the rhetoric because the civil service have explained to him what he can and cannot do when in the good dog club of government. Maybe. Maybe it is just him trying to spread, if you like, the base of reform. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't think Nigel trusts anybody enough to be able to delegate. If he became Prime Minister, he would also need a Chancellor, a Health Minister, a Defence Minister. Such a shame, because this man is understandably important, but he needs to learn to delegate. This is a voice note. You're going to be very excited to know this. I didn't hear this amazing interview that Julia had with Ben Habib this morning. I've got Ben in 30 seconds because so many people have been talking about the piece of work Julia did, which is great. I want to hear it for myself. First, though, and Ben, if you're listening, pin back your logos. This is Liam on Reform. Go.
I think the big picture that people seem to be missing is that Rupert Lowe has not been saying anything different to what Nigel Farage has. But because Farage wants to control reform and have all this power, he's missed the point and decided to get rid of Rupert because he's criticised him. I think that's a very bad move and shows poor leadership. You should be able to delegate and the party to grow. I agree with Rupert. To grow that party, you do need to delegate. You need to have people like Rupert in better positions and start forming an actual cabinet. Nigel cannot run this all forever and a day on his own as a dictatorship. And as long as he continues to do that and keeps sniping and getting rid of good people who will criticise him for not delegating correctly, the party is never going to grow.
Very interesting. We say a very good afternoon to a man who really vented this morning. I'm afraid I wasn't able to listen. Ben Habib, former MEP and Brexiteer. How are you, my friend?
Good afternoon. Good to see you. Did I vent? I thought I was just reasonable and coherent. Perhaps
you and I go back a long way. I would never deliver anything but the truth. I took a call. No, because that's part of politics. I took a call at 5 to 5 from a woman who said she was a massive fan of yours but is now disappointed. I hope you don't mind. I've got her back on because I want you to speak to her directly, because that's what I think this is about. Laura Jane, are you back?
I am. I don't know quite what to say. As I said, I hero worship him, or I did until his interview this morning. Put it like that.
Well, he's listening to you. Speak to him yourself, Laura Jane in Hampshire. Ben Habib is all ears.
As I said, Ben, I have always hero worshipped you. I was massively disappointed when you had to leave. I know that there are huge things that we, the public, don't know about in a great detail. I happen to have been at school with Rupert's wife, so I do know a little bit. And I'm guessing as well as knowing, if that makes any sense. And I understand that this is all very difficult for everybody. I was disappointed that you slightly vented off all the things that you wanted to. It was almost like I felt you wanted to say everything that you would have liked to have said ages ago about how you felt about Nigel. And I felt disappointed because I think there are moments when the public should be kept out of people's spats. It's almost better if we don't know the detail, because we need reform so badly, and we need people like you. I'm praying like a good Roman Catholic, lighting candles every Sunday, that this is not going to derail the important thing. And I was a little bit, I'm sorry to say, disappointed in what you had to say, because I felt we shouldn't air our dirty linen in public.
Ben?
So I'm very grateful to you for your support, and I totally understand your disappointment with what's going on. But, and please just take this at face value, I'm not in politics for any personal political advancement. I'm in it because I really care about the country. And I've got some issues with Nigel, which go back to 2020, which I have bottled. You're absolutely right. I bottled them since 2020. And in fact, speaking utterly candidly, if I'd known Nigel was coming back as leader, I may not have joined, I would not have joined Reform UK. And their fundamental differences of ideology, including, for example, that at the time that Richard was pitching me to join Reform, Nigel was saying Brexit was done, and I knew it hadn't been done. Northern Ireland had been left behind, and Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. Some people don't seem to care about that, but I think that if you can't define the democratic unit that is the UK, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, if you're prepared for Great Britain to come out but throw 1.8 million people under a bus, I think that's a serious issue. He also was on the record for saying that a united Ireland was inevitable, and a number of other things like that. So I was nervous of Nigel anyway. And the other thing about Nigel is that he is a larger-than-life character. His persona is perhaps bigger than any other political character on the stage. And when you have such a big political character, it's critical that the organization that he is a part of, that he leads, has mechanisms and processes and checks and balances in place that make it possible for other people to come on. And I think we would all agree that the task of rescuing the United Kingdom from this inexorable path that Tony Blair set it on 30 years ago is vast. The task is vast. It cannot be fulfilled by one man. And you need lots of Samsons, lots of Hercules around Nigel to deliver the country to safety. And the problem that I've got from a personal character perspective with Nigel is that he gets very, very prickly when other people get the limelight. And I'm sure at the heart of the problems with Rupert was that Rupert was very popular, is very popular. And I think Nigel had real issues with that. And even that's fine if the party is structured properly and Rupert had the protections of the processes and checks and balances to which I refer. But the party is controlled by Nigel. He has complete sway over what the party does from day to day. And notwithstanding his protestations to the contrary that he's democratized it, he hasn't. And so even with the best will in the world, Reform is never going to be the party to save the United Kingdom because it won't tolerate the numbers of Herculeses that will be required to take on the establishment and deliver us from evil, because Nigel can't accommodate.
Can I just get Laura Jane? Can I just get Laura Jane to just answer that, and then I want to move on if that's okay. Thoughts on what Ben has just said, Laura, and good of him to take your call.
Thank you. Yes, but I mean, I do agree with you, but I think that the problem is that the party is still growing, and there are a lot of things that need to be put in place. Hopefully, those sorts of things will keep Nigel in check, because one hopes that he will eventually realise he needs a team around him, because you know, you need a cabinet.
Of course, you do.
You do need people.
It's critical.
And can I jump in and say something? And I really appreciate your call, Laura Jane. Thank you. I hope you understood why we came back. What I'd say to both of you is, it's really interesting, isn't it? To be a great leader, you have to be a conviction politician, because I'm sick and tired of reactive politicians who don't have the balls to stand up on what they believe in. And sometimes conviction politicians are neither popular with the public in some parts and certainly some of their own party. Margaret Thatcher famously, if she didn't like somebody, got rid of them. And then after 11 years, all 400 of her MPs are in a room together going, we all hate her, let's get rid of her. But for 10 years, she ruled with an iron fist. Tony Blair the same. But you make the point, Laura Jane, and Ben, you backed it up. Politics is a dirty, horrible game. You have to surround yourself with all sorts of different parts of your party, and what you do is you get clever. You give to your enemies the jobs that they're not going to succeed at, so they fall on their backsides and they have to fall on their own swords, and it's not your doing. That is politics. I hope, because I do believe that it's an avenue down which many millions of people in this country want to go. I hope there's an answer to this. But at the end of the day, Ben, there's lots more I want to talk to you about, but I just wanted to... Julia did a great interview with you this morning. I didn't want to jump in on that, but I just wanted you to be able to answer somebody as specifically as Laura, because many people are saying it's sour grapes. You and Stephen Wolfe and Henry Bolton and all these people are just I know you as men who care about the process, who care about the outcome, and probably have kept quiet for a long, long time. So you had that right, and that was important. Let's move on to other stuff, though, if you don't mind, from reform.
Delighted to move on.
You know, you and I talk about common sense, right? You know, do you honestly, in your head, irrespective of reform, do you think this is going to change? Because yesterday, my friend, didn't have you on. Yesterday, we had a ridiculous story that the St John's ambulance have banned people whilst they're giving CPR, whilst they're saving your life, Ben Habib. You can't say I'm giving CPR to a woman. You have to say it's very nice to meet you, person with breasts. Today, the Bank of England has scrapped planned diversity rules amid a global backlash over the liberal corporate agenda. We've heard so many examples. The Navy, was it the Air Force or the Navy? It was the Air Force who would only employ pilots who were non-white and of different sexual orientation. We heard about this justice system this week, the Sentencing Council saying if you're a different gender or race or religion, judges should be more lenient. Oh, right, so commit a heinous crime, and if you're a different colour, skin, religion or sex, you get away with it. Do you think this madness is on the turn, irrespective of reform and any other political party? Do you think the British public have woken up to how ludicrous this all is, Ben?
I think the British public are waking up, and I think the British public have the great protection of the blanket of commonsensical behaviour that, frankly, Donald Trump and his administration are affording us. The notion that you recruit pilots, I'm not just talking about staff at the RAF, but actual fighter pilots based on their ethnicity, is absolutely daft. We want the best fighter pilots in the jets to defend the country. I don't give a damn what color they are, what their ethnic origin is. And it is the undermining and hollowing out of our skills in this country, our economy. When we set meritocracy aside, the only factor by which people should be discriminated by, discrimination is only justified in the case of meritocracy. That's what we want. We want a society based on meritocracy. So we get the people doing the jobs for which they are best suited. And the fact that the RAF had to reverse on it, the fact that you've got other institutions that are waking up to it, lots of companies, by the way, are now ditching the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion model, the regulations actually that have embedded themselves into the entire economic and institutional framework of the UK. They're ditching it and saying we've had enough of that.
Well, yeah, it's really interesting, and I know it might seem like a really shallow example, and I gave it an hour ago. The biggest and most expensive film that's been made by the Disney Corporation in the last 5 years is a remake of Snow White. Have you read about this? They spent $300+ million. They've now shelved because of an anti-woke backlash. What are they called? Openings and nights where they show it. And what is it called? Help me out. What's the word? Premieres. They're not having premieres anywhere. They're doing it to industry figures behind closed doors because Snow White is a Latina. That makes no sense. That makes no difference. But Snow White can't fall in love, and the dwarfs aren't dwarfs. There's people of different colours and different heights, and I mean the whole thing. And it's completely like rinsed the whole story. It's disgusting, it's immoral, it's anti-women. And Disney have gone, nobody wants to watch it. So they've wrote back. I genuinely believe people are going, but surely you want the best pilot. Surely there's nothing wrong with a film that talks about something from hundreds of years ago. Surely it's all right to say there's a woman and there's a man. I think that will turn, irrespective of whatever political party is in power. I think the British people are waking up, Ben. Really do.
I think the British people woke up, funny enough, in 2016 when we voted to leave the EU. It's all part of the same thing. You know, the liberal global order, which is effectively hijacked by the notion that individuals should be able to do whatever it is they wish, even if it's to the detriment of the majority. That's what the liberal global order is. It's the promotion of the individual over and above and to the detriment of the majority, which is the setting aside of democracy. And when you set aside democracy, what you're doing is absolutely destroying your nation state. Absolutely. And the people in this country woke up to it in 2016 and said, no, we want democracy. We want a united kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland on its front foot, doing what's right for the country and the people. And all of this agenda, the agenda of, positive discrimination in favor of minorities, in favor of minority religious interests, in favor of minority sexual preferences and all of that, all of that is doing away with common sense, with what is in the majority's interest. And the majority ultimately will come back to rule the roost. And I think one of the issues, Jerry, I'm digressing, but I think it's a really important point. You know, we look at the British landscape, the political landscape, and we say, well, we used to be the bastion of stability.
Yep.
And now we've become the basket case. And the reason we've become the basket case is because the politicians are not doing what the people want. If they'd done what the people voted for in 2016, we wouldn't have had 9 years of political turmoil. The Tories wouldn't have had one prime minister after another. They would have had stability because the people would have been given that which they voted for. And we've got to get back to that basic common sense. We've got to ditch the liberal global order. We've got to ditch progressive discrimination. We've got to take back control of the country. We've got to make our politicians accountable, which they're still not accountable. You saw the other day, Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, on the very point that you made about the sentencing of people. She couldn't make a decision. They got a 175-seat majority. He couldn't make a decision.
See, this is what let me jump in there. That's what I don't understand. I was very supportive of Shabana Mahmood. Basically, for people who don't know this story, who are listening right now, there's a thing called the Sentencing Council, a bunch of do-gooding vegans set up by Blair, that basically give advice to judges on how they should be. And some ridiculous statement from them a couple of weeks ago said that two judges, let's not blame judges for a minute, this is how you have to interpret the rules. If a person who's committed a crime is in front of you in court and is of a different ethnic minority group or a religious minority group or is struggling with their sexuality and wants to change, you need to be more lenient in your judgment. To which every person with a brain cell in the land bar none went, what are you talking about? So she wrote to them and said, no, that's not happening. And they wrote back and said, but out, something to do with you. I would 100 million% have gone, I've got a 175-seat majority. I can categorically tell you the British public will love this. I'm going to put that in Parliament tomorrow. It'll take half an hour, and I'm going to sack you buggers by the end of the week because it's ludicrous.
Absolutely.
That is what Donald Trump would do. That is what politics can do.
Absolutely.
That is what the British people want from their politicians.
That's
by
what
a mile.
democracy is. That's what democracy is. But the fact that the Sentencing Council can trump the Justice Secretary with a 175-seat majority tells you we haven't got democracy in this country. And by the way, that Sentencing Council first came up with this suggestion over a year ago. And without wishing to bang my own drum, I've been mentioning it for over a year. And what it means fundamentally is that we have a two-tier criminal justice system. For all those lefty, wokey nutcases who say, no, we don't, justice is blind. How can it be regarded as blind if the sentence you get is determined by your skin colour? It is absolutely
And let's not forget, we've got a Prime Minister who said, despite the fact that we had no police men and women on the streets because we were down, we had courts that were stuffed and jails that were busting, back in July with those riots that nobody supported, by labelling everybody far right, on Sky Television and other television cameras, he had them arrested, tried, charged and imprisoned within 24 hours. They'll do... The priorities are wrong. I don't understand, actually, if I'm honest, why more of our politicians don't actually listen to the people and what gets people going, because there is a classic example, the Sentencing Committee. Donald Trump would sack them on day one and I would do exactly the same. It's like people say to me, well, it's very difficult when you come to power, the blob. I'd sack the bloody blob. If you're in power, sack them. I don't even understand. You're the Prime Minister.
I tell you, at the heart of the problem is 30 years of the undermining of our democracy, starting by Tony Blair, with quangos, international laws, international institutions, all above and beyond our parliamentary reach. And that's what's undermined it. And a culture now amongst our parliamentarians where they are just the mouthpieces for various constituencies, but they don't actually enact. They don't understand what it means to have power. And Donald Trump showed them what it means to have power. And within the first hour of presidency, he passed 100 executive orders, getting rid of a whole load of crap.
I mean, I know the setup in America is different, but you do sort of crave. Now, we're going to finish. I hope you don't mind. It's just pointed given to me. We're going to go back to where we started only because I don't know whether it was Stephen Wolfe or somebody else intimated that one of the reasons that he thinks there are problems is that Elon Musk has had Rupert Lowe's ear. And there are rumours, Ben Habib, that Elon Musk has been talking to Rupert and you and maybe Stephen about a new challenger party to reform. Can you respond to that on Talk Drive?
I think Elon Musk is bound to wish to change the political landscape in the UK. I didn't have a full opportunity to address, was it Laura's question? Laura James, was it Laura? Her question. The fundamental problem also with Nigel is that he's not actually saying the right thing. He says he's comfortable with the rate of demographic change in this country. He's not in favor of mass deportation of illegal migrants. He would consider the return of Shamima Begum to the country. Even Sajid Javid, the One Nation wet Tory, understood that she should never be allowed back. Nigel is making some, he recruited a Liberal Democrat a couple of days ago into the party. He had Charlie Mullins put forward as a candidate, the jab, no jab, no job guy, pro-EU. Nigel is pivoting to the centre ground, and Musk and the Trump administration is looking at reform and thinking, sorry guys, you don't have.
Have you been involved? You know me, we're mates, but I'm asking the question. This is my job. Have you been in conversations with Elon Musk and anybody else about a new party, Ben Habib?
You and the entire nation. Of course we're mates. And everything is on the table. Everything has to be on the table to ensure the country is delivered to safety.
My God, you could be a politician, Habib. That was a great answer. We'll watch this space. We appreciate genuinely being on. I know one thing about all of you, about Henry last night, Stephen, you, whatever the critics will say, you guys care passionately about the direction this country goes in. And it's a shame this has happened, but we will watch it and we will follow it. And we thank you so much indeed, Ben Habib, for being on Talk Drive. 5:23. I asked Ben Habib just then, has Elon Musk been in conversations with yourself, with Rupert Lowe, with others about a challenger party to reform? Ben Habib just said on Talk Drive, everything's on the table. Talk Drive, 5:24.
I think what Kemi's doing, in all honesty, is saying, how do we stop any of the pull factors that are bringing people to the shores? So yes, we know we've got to stop the illegal immigrants. We would have the Rwanda scheme, and I'd still bring back the Rwanda scheme or replace a third country you could send them to. So this is another way in saying, if you do come here, it's not going to be the free ride you thought it was. You're going to have to pay back your housing costs.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
5:27, this is JK on Drive. Thanks for tuning in. Interesting call there from Ben Habib. Loads of you getting involved as well. We will get to you. But Ryan, I'd like to point out that I've completely messed up the machinery in here, so I can't read any text messages. So if you'd like to bring your very, very long legs in now whilst I'm on air and push the button that needs... Are you going to come in? No, he's just sitting there, just looking at me. Come on, Ryan. I gave you a winner today. I made you money. I've changed your life. I've honestly, I've given you a job, and I'm expecting a bit of eerie comes, ladies and gentlemen. Are you all right, son? Why have you taken your glasses off? Is that
so I can see this.
So you take them off to see things? I love your honesty. Stork. Imagine being called Stork. Jezza. Ben is one of the most sensible, level-headed people on the show. What a brilliant man. Penny Hardy. I really enjoy watching you and love your show, but for goodness sake, can you stop tarring us vegans as all being lefties? Well, I don't think I've said that all vegans are lefties, but there you go. Hello to Debbie. Debbie says, Jeremy, what does Ben Habib mean by democracies? The party of the public doesn't know all the rules inside the Labour Party. What? I don't know what he means. Oh, fair enough. I don't really understand that, but thank you anyway. Hello to John Barden. Ben Habib demonstrated clear, sour grapes. He wouldn't even be where he is in politics without Nigel Farage. Farage is the engine of reform. It's in its infancy of five members of Parliament. It needs strong control. The left are loving this. Ben Habib, stop thinking of yourself and get behind the long haul. As Nigel said, he was in for it. Stop giving this dead cat oxygen. John on the Isle of Wight. Sally, I too love Ben, but I've also been a little disappointed with him in his past few interviews on the reform spat. He seems to have lost his usual cool. Maybe he and Rupert et al. Could start UKIP too. Steve's in East Yorkshire. Hello, Stevie. All that talk that without Farage there's no reform party is no way to promote them and reach out to new voters. The Labour Party without Starmer as leader is still the Labour Party, and the Tories without Badenoch is still the Conservative Party. That's what we need to be thinking about. Let's go to London. Quick call. Georgina, you're on Talk Drive. Good evening at 5:30. How are you?
Good evening. I'm just in the middle of dinner, so I'm.
What are you having? Go on, make us hungry. What are you having?
I've made toad in the hole and creamed potatoes. And then we're having homemade rice pudding.
Can we just rewind? Because we never eat on Drive. All of us are svelte like. Well, except for Cardwell. Can I just point out, you don't have potato with Yorkshire pudding, because that's enough, isn't it? The Yorkshire pudding. You just have vegetable.
No, you've got to have creamed potatoes with onion and also lots of gravy, so it's really nice.
Oh, God, Jodie's salivating. Honestly, I nearly said the wrong thing. What about homemade rice pudding? You must have time on your hands, love. What's going on with your life?
No, I've not got time. I'm a very, very busy mummy, but I've got time on my hands to watch talkTV as I'm doing all my chores every day.
Good. Don't worry about me. I haven't eaten for ages. Right, what do you want to say about reform then? Give it your all, love.
Right, I am really excited with what has just been said, because it'd be a major contender to reform if Nigel Ben Habib, if it would be a major contender to Nigel if Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe did start a party. That's definitely one to watch out for. Politics is a dog-eat-dog world, Jez, and tensions are running high and raw at the moment. So we don't need to hear any more venting on this situation. There's far more important things to concentrate on, like getting reform back on track.
Yep.
You know, Nigel is the face of reform, so don't lose the faith. Rupert Lowe had started to sound like Enoch Powell in Overdrive. I've got to admit, I like Rupert Lowe, but he was going overboard. We've got to keep expectations realistic of what reform can achieve. Deportation of whole Muslim communities is totally ridiculous and unrealistic.
I'm going to say something that I didn't feel I was going to say, and I'm glad that I love having you on, and I mean that, because you've made me think of something, and that's the best form of radio, in my humble opinion, right? Is you don't plan it. Everybody knows I voted for reform. I haven't gone down the road of, they're going to form the next government. I'm going to say it publicly. I don't think reform will form the next government. I think reform will have a major say. I think they'll win between 150 and 200 seats, and they will have a steady rise, maybe in 10 years' time. But with that will come teething problems. But you're so right when you say these things get played out in public. But that is politics nowadays. Christ, do you not remember the last few weeks of the Tory government? Some bloke got arrested. He some bloke phoned his campaign manager. He was in some boy's house at 3 o'clock in the morning, tied up, surrounded by rent boys and I don't know what else. The Labour Party guy got sacked for punching somebody. These people are not perfect people, but when it's new and the spotlight is on you and you have that social media thing, and I have to say, I think Musk probably has stirred it. Maybe Rupert's turned to that, I don't know. Everybody uses social media, but you have to be very careful. Somebody was saying something, here you are, this is really me being honest. Somebody was criticising television to me some months ago, and I get that. There's many television shows that have been on in the past that could be criticised, but there's a thing called Ofcom which controls television. Social media is not governed or managed by anybody, right? Any official body, and some of the stuff that goes on, be it on X, be it on social media, is utterly appalling, and people play their lives out on social media. For reform to work, I think they have to accept there will be blips, there will be moments, there will be egos. They need to get in a room, clip their heads together and work out that the common denominator, the people who join them, are more important than this rubbish, because this rubbish is going to let the left in again, and nobody with a brain cell wants more than 4 years of this nightmare government, do they?
No, not at all, but I'm a great believer in he who stirs the pot must be made to lick the spoon at the end of it.
Yeah.
Jess. You know, Nigel isn't going to win this election on charm alone.
No, he's not.
We've already been told that he needs a Herculean team around him. I truly believe that. Hopefully inclusive of some strong women. He needs to focus on the organisation of this party and, more importantly, nail the hat on the party's policies. And he needs to have a steadfast commitment to them.
Couldn't agree more. Really good to have you on. Thank you. Georgina with her homemade rice pudding. Send us some. In London, 25 to 6. Coming next, Ben Harris-Quinney, political commentator, will explain what he thinks about the Brazilians, because they're cutting down a rainforest to build a road that will take you to a brand new hotel being built for the next COP30 conference, where world leaders will fly in on gas-guzzling, I can't even get the right, jets, to drive up the road in their big cars to sit down and talk about carbon emissions. The world's gone bleeding nuts. Back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
24 minutes to 6 o'clock. We line up later. Kev O'Sullivan, the legend that is Kev O'Sullivan, here with his political asylum from 7, and Petrie Hoskin. She's a dish. You see what I did? She is here from 10 o'clock tonight. The sweepstake results are in from the Cheltenham Festival. Myself and 20 friends put in. We pick horses. In last place, myself. How embarrassing when you think you know about horses. But the wife's won. The wife's won the money. My wife has won money. She's come second. She's won some money. So I'll be taking that off her later. And actually telling her that I pay the entry fee. No, I won't. I'm just pretending to be brave. I'm terrified, and when I get home, I'll say, well done, darling, buy yourself something nice. 0344 499 1000. Let's continue. Let's say a very good evening to Ben Harris-Quinney, political commentator. Ben, how are you?
Good evening, Jeremy. I'm all right.
Let's not talk about reform. I want to talk about the madness of this world. This madness. So where would you like? Would you like to talk about rainforests or smart meters? Your choice, Ben. You can start with A or B. What's it going to be?
Well, I want to talk about rainforests.
This is such a story.
And I think, what a waste building a road anywhere for a COP meeting, because anyone who's anyone. I mean, imagine the embarrassment if you drive to this thing. Everyone turns up in a private jet.
Can I just read this story out to the 5 people who are still listening? A new 4-lane highway cutting through tens of thousands of acres of prime Amazonian protected forest, ladies and gentlemen, is being built in the Brazilian city, or heading towards the Brazilian city of Belém. And this is because they're building the road and destroying the forest so they can create a lovely road that all the people can drive their I can't say it, their cars that drink a lot of gas, towards this COP30 headquarters thing they're going to do. This is madness on an industrial scale. These pampered multi-millionaires and billionaires who morally sort of go on all the time about we're going to save the planet. You're quite right. Will fly in on their private jets, get in their big cars. They don't give a toss about the rainforest that's been destroyed to get them to their big hotel complex, probably built by I don't know how many people for very little money, and they'll sit there and pontificate about how they're going to make the world a better place, and they're part of the problem, Ben. Ben's frozen.
Yeah, it's the perfect emblem, isn't it?
No, you're back. Go on.
Of the virtue signalling that underwrites all of these net zero pronouncements. And we're doing the same thing in the UK, because whilst the government consistently talks about net zero and how our bills have got to go up to pay for it and how we've got to have more restrictions to make sure it happens, at the same time they're concreting over the countryside, building more and more homes, as we know, because of the sheer number of migrants that are coming in to the country. So the two things don't go hand in hand. If you care about the natural environment, as I do, as I'm sure all of us do, and want to see our countryside in the United Kingdom maintain its beauty, and the same in the Amazon rainforest, you wouldn't be doing this stuff. If you care about virtue signalling and looking important and flying in your private jet, then of course you would.
Ben, I probably might shock you, and I don't mean to when I say this, but you say we all care about the environment. Yeah, I do, but I'm going to be honest with you. I care more about pensioners freezing to death, veterans on the streets, farmers who are having their land grabbed by a left-wing government that patently doesn't understand what cheap electricity is. I care about people who can't see a doctor, can't get an operation, can't get cancer treatment. Is it wrong to have the opinion that this focus on the environment, this focus on carbon emissions when we produce probably the smallest amount compared to these other countries who don't give a damn, it is virtue signalling, but in its purest and worst sense to me, it misses the point about the things that need to be done. It's like you said about immigration. So people slaughter us on this station for saying this. I'm quite happy to have people in this country who are genuinely struggling. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Look what we did with Ukraine. I am not prepared when our public services are strained to the point where people can't see a doctor, get an operation, old ladies can't have their hips replaced, but you can come in on a boat and end up in a 4-star hotel. I'm not happy or content with a country that can't put its veterans before it puts illegal migrants, before it puts virtue signalling about... Have you read the other story today? I mean, this is extraordinary. Households are being forced to fit smart meters by Britain's biggest energy companies. 4 of the big 6, including British Gas and Octopus, are confirming they're no longer fitting dumb meters, and we will replace what we want to put in your house. All for what? To cost this country billions of pounds, to tick a box for Ed Miliband, who's dangerous in my humble opinion, whilst this country seemingly crumbles.
And we were told that the green energy revolution would mean bills going down, would mean energy getting cheaper and more accessible for everyone. And obviously the absolute opposite has happened, as you say. So, I mean, I do think we want to protect the environment. You also want cheap bills, and we can have those things. We had those things in the past. It's just completely hypocritical to, on the one hand, say you want to protect the environment, and on the other, as a government, be going full steam ahead to tear up our natural countryside, which is, environment has become a word associated with Greta Thunberg, but it just means where we live, what we enjoy. We all enjoy the countryside. We all enjoy this country as it has been. And these people that want to brand themselves as environmentalists are the ones most fiercely tearing it apart, putting up wind turbines, putting up pylons, and really, I think doing it because they want to virtue signal. They know that the science is very shaky on this in terms of the contribution the United Kingdom is going to have to changing the global environment. But they also know that the impact on individuals is going to be immense. It's going to be the most expensive policy in history.
But
so
how do you, in a calm way, justify that when, and I keep saying it, your country is struggling? When, if we weren't in debt, trillions of pounds, if most of our public services weren't creaking, I'd sort of understand. But it's like the Chagos Islands. I know we're flitting around here. We've got a military that's on its backside that has been systematically cut for the past 20 years. And I don't blame Starmer on this. I'm talking about 14 years of Tory rule. He says he's going to increase it. We know most of that money is going to go towards giving the Mauritians $9 billion and the Chagos Islands, whilst our troops don't have the right equipment, the right logistical support. I think that there's a word I wanted to use to you, actually, which is successive governments in this country seem to get their priorities wrong, Ben, in my humble opinion as a voter.
Well, Starmer said it himself perfectly. He prefers Davos to being in England because then he can mix with like-minded people, and that's exactly what his government looks like, a government that prefers the interests of internationalists over the people at home. And I think, people call it jingoistic to look in the national interest, but it's actually democratic because these people have been elected by the British public. The UN isn't an elected body. The ECHR isn't an elected body. COP isn't an elected body. They have been elected in the United Kingdom to serve their constituents. They're not doing that. They're going off to these international meetings and putting the British public and, many other leaders go from other countries and do the same thing in their countries. They're putting the British public through hell. And as I say, I think once it dawns on the public what this net zero change is going to mean, and the fact that it's going to have no impact positively on their lives, it's only going to impose restrictions, then, I think it's going to become one of the most toxic policies in history, and rightly so. There's nothing wrong with wanting to protect the environment. They're not doing that, but they're also ruining people's lives in the process.
Couldn't agree more, Ben. Great to have you on. Ben Harris, Quiddy, political commentator on Talk Drive. Thank you. 5:45. Let's go to the phone lines quickly. Let's head north to Leeds. Mark, you're on Talk Drive. Good evening. How are you?
How are you, Jeremy?
Not too bad for a balding 60-year-old has-been. What you got for me?
Listen, I'm a four-headed salt and pepper 63-year-old, so there you go.
You sound good for 63, pal. What you got? 2 minutes, go.
Right, OK. I actually want to get involved with Ben Habib, actually. My direction is towards Ben Habib and all this uproar with reform, which is basically say, instead of Ben Habib jumping, I love Ben Habib, I think he's a great guy, but he's got to stop all this catcalling. Just why doesn't he encourage the members of Reform to help direct our frustrations to Nigel Farage to say, tidy up all these jagged edges, get rid of all this stuff that we're catcalling about. And Ben's just got to calm down on this because he's just muddying the waters even further. He makes some valid points, we all hear them, but he should be encouraging us, the members, and people that are interested in Reform, to make our noises to Nigel.
It's really interesting, actually. Peter from Norfolk sent this whilst you were talking. He said, I said this to Julie this morning. Sadly, it wasn't read out. Her show was really busy. Without the members, there's no Reform UK. We are Reform, not Nigel. It's really important that people understand that. I just, for me, whatever the answer to the reform issue is, whether it's Nigel coming out and speaking more, whether it's Nigel understanding that he needs to delegate and there will have to be other people, whether it's people like Lowe learning to wind their neck in, whether it's a party issue where there needs to be rules, things that are said, people shouldn't be out tweeting on X and whatever if it doesn't follow. There have to be rules, otherwise you're not producing and showing yourself to be a totally coherent political party. And I think a lot of it is transition, Mark, to be honest, from, political activism, if you like, to a genuine political party. There might also be some truth in the fact that he's worked out, Nigel, that if he is going to take it to the next level, as Tim Montgomery said 2 hours ago, he's going to have to woo other people as well as the activism. But I just hope, as I'm sure you would share, I just hope that this is not a missed opportunity, because I think there are millions of people in this country terrified by what Labour's doing, totally disillusioned with the Tories, who will not forgive the Tories in 4 years and who want a serious alternative, don't you?
Absolutely. We live in a world, I've always believed, in my mature age and even as a young guy. I want choices, and the choices I've made are not provided by the Uni Party.
Completely.
And reforms come along, provided a breath of fresh air and said, here's an option. And now all of a sudden, we've got to this situation which all organisations, SMEs, the whole lot goes through growing pains. They make mistakes along that journey.
Yep.
So I'm saying we need to harness those mistakes. Nigel needs to harness them, hear all the white noise, but Ben and such like need to just calm down. He's been on Dan Wootton, he's been on you, he's been on every single, and it's just like rein it in because he's getting quite angry.
OK. Point taken. Really appreciate it. Mark in Leeds, thank you very much indeed. What is it? 12 minutes to 6 o'clock. It's a moment I've been waiting for since the whistle went at Anfield last night at 11 minutes past 10. Coming next, Sam Ellard, a Liverpool fan, a sports commentator from talkSPORT, who said I was off my rocker last night when I said Liverpool will be knocked out of the Champions League and will lose Sunday's Carabao Cup. Bring it on! Back in 3!
I think what Kemi's doing, in all honesty, is saying, how do we stop any of the pull factors that are bringing people to the shores? So, yes, we know we've got to stop the illegal immigrants. We would have the Rwanda scheme, and I'd still bring back the Rwanda scheme or replace a third country you could send them to. So this is another way in saying, if you do come here, it's not going to be the free ride you thought it was. You're going to have to pay back your housing costs.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9 minutes to 6. We're live across the United Kingdom. My name's Jeremy Kyle, and if you could be so kind, Amy, I've waited since 11 minutes past 10 last night. Push the button.
Sport Summary on Talk.
Welcome, Sam Ellard. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are we?
I don't know anything about football. Ryan and I are a complete couple of idiots. Liverpool, rubbish.
PSG really good.
No, actually, Arnslot's right. It could probably an amazing performance, but you were beaten, knocked out of the Champions League in the last 16. On Sunday, you'll lose the Carabao Cup. What was going to be a 4-tier approach is nothing now. It's just Premier League.
Just the Premier League. Like, that's not a big deal.
You notice all the Liverpool fans saying, "Oh, we've won the Premier League." Yeah.
So are you trying to downplay the Premier League?
Trying to downplay, but Man City have imploded.
Can I give you one bit of praise?
Let's talk about last night.
You predicted PSG to go through.
Yeah.
And in fact, I don't want to big you up too much. I think you might have even said penalties as well. That's good.
Yeah.
But you went big on the both games, the Newcastle as well.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens on Sunday. On last night, do you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. They were better than us. Over the two games, over the 2 legs,
you were sensational.
Last night was more of an even game. The first leg, they hammered us, they destroyed us. We shouldn't have even been in it last night. Last night was more of an even game. I'd say overall, PSG deserves to go through. They've had the superstars of the past, the Messis, your Neymars, your Mbappes.
Done a good job, Luis Enrique.
He's done a really good job. Kvaratskhelia, Barcola, Dembele, that is a front three. On paper, not the section of attacking players. They've got pace, they've got power. The 3 boys in midfield, all technically so good. They are well drilled, they are well organised, they are exciting to watch.
That's right.
I couldn't believe, Jeremy, when PSG played Man City, 6th game in the league phase, PSG were outside of the top 24, which is quite remarkable. Their form this year has been brilliant. And you know what? Sometimes as a football fan, you've got to put your hands up and say, we were beaten by the better team, and we were beaten by the better team. They were brilliant to watch, and they could be dark horses to win this competition.
Very interesting last night as well. And I think these people are the dark horses. I know we make a big thing about Harry Kane's never won any silverware. That's why he left Tottenham. First season at Bayern Munich, he still a shed load of goals, but they didn't win anything. They beat Bayer Leverkusen, who were unbeaten in 37 games last season under Xabi Alonso. They beat them 5-0 on aggregate.
Thumping.
I think Bayern Munich are a good shout for the Champions League as well.
Harry Kane, 81.
I'd love to see Harry Kane
81 games, 76 goals, 23
for Bayern Munich.
23 assists for Bayern Munich. These numbers are incredible. I think he's the most.
And to be fair, he's gone and proven himself on the world stage.
Yeah, I think he's the most well-rounded striker I've seen in sort of the last 10 years in terms of not just ability to score goals. His numbers are freakish. But you know what, Jez, you're right. Harry Kane's been mocked for so many years for not being able to win that trophy.
Hope he does.
Like, he is, just for me, the ultimate professional. Not just in terms of quality on the pitch, the way he conducts himself, the way he handles himself off the pitch, everything he does, you can tell off the pitch, mentally, physically, doing everything in his power to look after himself. And I would love to see Harry Kane win a trophy. He gets mocked in this country for not being able to win things. I would love, now my team are out of the Champions League, if Harry Kane ends this season lifting the Champions League, England captain, fair play to him, he's a legend, and my God. Like, we knew he was world class before he went to Bayern Munich. But those numbers, 76 goals in 81 games, 23 assists, freakish numbers.
That would get Watford promoted.
Well, can I? I don't want to dig out producer Ryan, but Watford are playing this evening. So I've got all my notes here because I'm doing a show this evening, 7 till 10, talkSport's YouTube channel, and on your smart TVs. Watford are playing Swansea this evening. Okay, Watford are 12th in the table. They're 7 points off the playoffs with 10 games to go. Producer Ryan goes, "We've got nothing to play for tonight." They win this evening. They go 4 off the playoffs. And he's saying they've got nothing to play for this evening. What sort of an attitude is that?
Appalling.
It's an appalling attitude.
Yeah, which is what you'll find with a Watford fan. Anyway, let's move on. Champions League tonight, very quickly, because I want to talk about 2 other sports. Arsenal, PSV, Aston Villa, Club Brugge.
Well, the 2 English teams... Club what?
Brugge.
Brugge?
Just get on with it.
Well, Arsenal are through. They're through. They're 7-1 up against PSV, which is quite ridiculous.
Arsenal.
Oh, do you?
I don't like Arsenal.
Can you tell me why you hate Arsenal?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, so you don't know.
I don't know what it is.
Okay, you just hate them for no apparent reason.
I don't like them.
Arsenal was 7-1 up against PSV. Aston Villa 3-1 up against the CB team, and they're the second legs at home. So you think Aston Villa should be through. Best game this evening by an absolute mile. Madrid. Atletico Real at Atletico. Madrid 2-1 up. These games between these two sides have always got that little bit of needle, that little bit of edge. Something tells me Atletico are going to go 1 up. And Simeone's team is going to just Diego Simeone. They're going to make it ugly and horrible and nasty. The Madrid game's the best game tonight by a mile. Do you want to do Cheltenham? Because you're the expert here at Cheltenham.
It's a great story. It's a great story. Day 2 Cheltenham Festival from Prestbury Park today. The big race is the Arkle. The English had the favourite in John Bond, trained by Nicky Henderson, ridden by Nico de Boinville. But I had in my head, and I said it to Ryan and I said it out in the office, I had in my head, there's always a story. There was sort of tragedy in National Hunt Racing 2 months ago when a young man called Michael O'Sullivan died. He had a fall, I think it was an ace, he didn't survive. And of course people will jump in. It was very, very sad, and I think this whole festival tended to pay tribute to him, and the jockeys were wearing armbands. In the big race today, there was a horse called Marine Nationale, and this morning I just went, it's going to win. This horse provided Sullivan with his first festival win a couple of years ago. He was 20 years of age. The crowds went nuts. The Irish all joined together. I told them all, that, you know what it's like with this story? Absolutely hosed up by 18 lengths. Fantastic, fantastic emotional day. Big. The Irish are leading the way. Mrs. Kyle came second in the sweepstakes. She's won some cash, which I'll be taking off her. I'm going tomorrow.
Is Mrs. Kyle going with you
We're
tomorrow?
going on the helicopter tomorrow. That'll be fun, won't
Mrs.
it?
Kyle going tomorrow?
I'm taking her, safe kissing her goodbye.
Sorry, you what?
I'm taking her with me, safe kissing her goodbye.
A safe kissing her goodbye?
I'm taking her with me because it'll save me kissing her goodbye. It's a joke.
No, it's not very funny.
No, it's not, but you're not supposed to pick up on it. What did you say, Ryan? Yeah, Ryan got it. You're in trouble if Ryan got it.
Sorry, in my defence, I just couldn't understand what you were saying. Anyway, I get it. You're going tomorrow, going to be brilliant. Are you going to see Alan Brazil? Bump into him, try and find him, say hello to him?
I would only say one thing about... Yeah, he'll be there. He'll be somewhere. Or we'll find a lookalike who doesn't look anything like him.
Can I ask you a question? So you're going via helicopter. So does it pick you up from your garden in your home, or do you have to go to like an airport?
I don't know yet.
What do you mean you don't know yet?
Well,
you must know it's tomorrow.
We'll see what happens.
You're not going by helicopter, are you?
Yes.
You just winked to Ryan?
I winked at Ryan because he's coming.
No, he's not.
He's telling everybody he's going to Amsterdam.
He's going away on holiday to Ireland.
Are you here tomorrow?
You're not going on holiday.
Are you going to Cheltenham or Ireland? He's going to Cheltenham.
I can hear him.
Right, listen.
Are you going via helicopter?
Yes.
Promise me.
No. Listen, I'm joking. But I'm going. The bosses are all going. We're going to have a good day out. We're going Thursday, Friday, which would be great. However, can I also talk rugby union? Because we have a certain person that listens to the show, says she never taught rugby union. I don't know his name. I'm a massive fan of Marcus Smith.
Yeah, I know
England.
He's back.
He has been recalled to the English team. In what position? I only just picked up on this against Wales on Saturday.
At fullback.
I don't have it.
And Tommy Freeman moves to outside centre for the Six Nations finale against Wales at the Principality Stadium. Smith is back in the 15 after missing out in England's win against Italy.
This is what I don't understand about Borthwick, right? He's not big enough to play fullback. Leave Elliot Daly there and put him in inside centre.
One thing for certain.
Yes.
They call it a Super Saturday this Saturday.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, Jez, this Saturday is going to be a Super Saturday. France 16 points, England 15 points, Ireland 14 points. The three fixtures this Saturday, one followed by the other. Italy, Ireland, Wales, England, France, Scotland. All England can do in Wales, do the job, and then hope the result in the later game goes our way.
I think Scotland might do England.
It's going to be a belter. Do you reckon?
I think Scotland could. I was up there last week. I think Scotland could do England a favour. There's real belief up in Edinburgh. Great weekend. And I will say this, we're all football fans, but rugby is an astonishing sport.
Yeah.
And England sort of turning the corner under Borthwick will look. Listen, Sunday's the Carabao Cup. I'll see you Monday when your head will be in your hands because Newcastle will have won their first trophy in 50 years. Samuel Ellard, thank you very much indeed. Right, this is Talk Drive. We're on until 7 o'clock. 0344 499 1000 is that telephone number. We will go to the news at 6 and we'll be back in about 3 minutes.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Final hour of Drive for Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. JK here until 7. Kev is here at 7. Petri from 10. If you want to be on, whatever you want to talk about, 0344 499 1000 is our telephone number. Jodie's still taking your calls. Ryan will take your voice notes on the same number. WhatsApp them, 0344 499 1000. And as ever, we're delighted to get your texts. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. JK, so Nigel Farage is just the same as the Labour Party. He doesn't give a damn about the safety of women and girls. He's ready to sell his soul for votes. That's disgusting, says Trish. Very interesting. Afternoon, Jez. This is from Dino. Dino in Oxford. I don't know why I did that, but I just felt the need to. Afternoon, Jez. He says, Musk tried to play the Tommy card. Nigel said no. Musk has Rupert in the palm of his hands. He's fallen for the Musk interference. It's a shame, but Nigel cannot have Rupert backing Tommy in the party. Plough on, Nigel. We will survive. Very interesting. It's a real split with all of this. I have to say it's a real split. Anne's in North London. Anne, good afternoon to you. If Reform plan a move to the centre for a wider appeal, in my humble opinion, they'll end up being exactly the same as all the others. Ruled by the blob, no change. What is the point to all of this belief? Good afternoon to Lisa Price, tuning in. Farage is leader for me, never mind how many naysayers like Wolf and Habib. They are bitter. The future is Nigel Farage. Jez, people who are cancelling their membership must be very shallow and not real reformers in the first place. Do they also change their support for their football team if they lose a match? Very shallow. I used to like Ben, but I do not like the fact that he now slags off Nigel. Steve Chandler, good to have your company. Personally, I think Farage has been beaten down by years of being accused of racism, being attacked, threatened and demonised by the media, and has been scared into moving more to the left. That's what the radical left do. They scare and bully people into submission and compliance. I don't agree with that, I'm being honest. Neda Fatari, if that's true about Elon Musk being in talks with Ben and Co., he needs to mind his own bloody business and butt out of our politics. It's nothing to do with him and no one will vote for it. He's Trump's puppy, not ours. Tim, Nigel needs to bring in Ant Middleton. Good God, what a great man he is. John's in Hertford. I'm a Reform member, Jez. But I'm totally gutted where we're going under Nigel Farage. He is definitely capitulating to the centre, in my humble opinion. If Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe form a breakaway party that is true to their core values, I would jump ship in a bleeding heartbeat. But they need to do it soon because 4 years will be here in absolutely no time. And finally, for now, Rach, good to have you. Do you know what, Jez? The solution to this drama with reform. This would work it out, by the way. Really simple. Get everybody down the pub, lock the doors and get Julia to referee. You get an answer there, 6 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Wednesdays on JK Live mean one thing and one thing only at 6 o'clock. The main man. We love having him on. Chief political writer from Spiked, Brendan O'Neill. Good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
Hey, Jeremy. I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. Struggling on in, this weird, mad world that we live in. I'm going to start with your bread and bleeding butter. I'm not going to start with Farage. I'm going to start with the story that the Bank of England has today scrapped planned diversity rules amid a global backlash over the Liberal corporate agenda. Regulators are to shelve proposals that would, Brendan O'Neill, have forced 42,000 UK businesses to report diversity and inclusion data collected on their employers. It followed criticism from loads of people about how this was utterly going to stifle growth, prevent companies from dealing on merit. To us, to anybody associated with Talk, Spiked or anything, that's just common sense because we seem to be evolving into a country that, I mean, I don't know what is interested in whether it's the RAF. You can't be white and be a pilot. If you commit a crime in this country, the sentencing council is saying, well, if you're brown colour or you're sexually about to change your sex or you come from a minority religious group, we'll just half your sentence. What is this madness? It is madness, isn't it?
Total madness. Jeremy, whoever thought it would be controversial to say you shouldn't judge people by their race? You should judge people by merit and you should judge people by their character. You know, there was a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, called Martin Luther King, who said exactly that 60 years ago. And that was taken as the right thing to do for society for a long time. And then over the past few years with DEI and all this anti-whiteness and this reintroduction of racial thinking that we saw under the banner of wokeness, all of that went out the window. I think what we're seeing with the Bank of England scrapping this diversity thing, and it's happening in different institutions as well, this is the Trump effect. Everyone can slag off Donald Trump as much as they like, and they can say he's a monster and an oaf and all the rest of it, but he is changing the Western world. This is the ripple effect of Trump's war on DEI and Trump's war on wokeness. I think it's a very good thing that people in British businesses will be judged by merit and character rather than by race.
I said to somebody on this station a couple of days ago, and a couple of people picked up on it, a leading figure in the television business, let's put it like that, said to me, we are at a point in this country in that business where if you're 25 and white and male and have just come out of university, you are screwed right now. And I would just like to say this because, you know, it's really important, isn't it, to be balanced. I am absolutely against any system that maybe in the past has discriminated. I think that's fundamentally wrong. But I'm massively into balance, Brendan. And to me, it's like a pendulum that swung so completely wrongly in the opposite direction that we are now box ticking for the sake of box ticking and missing the relevance of let's give the person who's best at that job the job. And if that is a white person, a black person, a brown person, a woman, a person with, I was going to say a woman, you know what I'm trying to say, I don't care. I don't think that should be the criteria, but it does sum up, I'm afraid, where we seem to be as a society, which is, and I know you and I rant about this every week, is we seem to make excuses for perpetrators of crime and not give a toss about victims. We seem to give somebody who patently plays the system and is giving nothing in return all the advantages that we don't afford to people who pay for the system in the first place. It's just our balance seems wrong in this country.
Oh, completely wrong. You know, we live under a technocratic regime, a kind of bureaucratic regime that just makes life harder and harder for ordinary working people. And especially, let's be brutally honest about it, especially the white working classes. Now, if you talk about the white working class, you're seen as racist. But the reason I'm talking about them is because they are amongst the most demonized people in this country. And as a consequence of the old sharp elbows amongst the middle classes who always get good gigs for their kids, you got that on one side. Then on the other side, you have the DEI system, which has increasingly elevated minority people over white people. Both of those things have come together to conspire against really talented, bright, white working class kids.
What do you say to people who would listen to this, right, Brendan, and they would say, yeah, that's deranged, that for years and years, people of a different skin colour have been persecuted, they've put to the back of the queue, and it's about time. I mean, I know what I'd say, but they would say you're being racist. There's no such thing as anti-whiteness. I mean, I think there is, but what would your answer to these people be?
I would say it's so blatantly true that there is an anti-white culture amongst the establishment. I think there really is. And just look at the way in which they, you know, the Guardian and people in the Labour Party and others, the way they look down their noses at what they refer to as gammon. Do you remember the term gammon, which was very common a few years ago? That was a reference to men of a certain age from working class communities who might vote Tory or might vote Reform. They were looked upon as gammon. What is gammon, Jeremy? Gammon is pig meat. They were referring to these people as pig meat. Look at the people like Emily Thornberry, who looked down her nose at white van man or people who flew the England flag outside their home. There has been a culture of derision aimed primarily at working class communities, primarily at white working class communities for quite some time. And if there is a lack of confidence in those communities, or if there is a feeling amongst the young men and women, the young boys and girls in those communities, that they can't really make it in this country anymore, that's not surprising, because every message they've got is that you're racist, you're a gammon, you're a Brexiteer, you come from a backward community, we don't really want you in our institutions. That's what they've been told.
I think that's so right. And with the Bank of England scrapping diversity rules, let's hope it's the first of many. Can we move on to your other favourite subject? Oh, God. If you are in the car, I promise not to shout too loud. Households are being forced to fit smart meters by Britain's biggest energy companies in a drive to meet net zero targets. 4 of the big 6 energy firms, including, in fact, British Gas and Octopus, are saying we're not putting dumb meters in now. We're only doing smart meters. This is on the day, by the way, that this station found out the greatest story of the week. A new 4-lane highway cutting through tens of thousands of protected Amazonian forest, ladies and gentlemen, is being cut down by bulldozers as we speak towards the Brazilian town of Belém, because they're building a highway from the airport to this new hotel complex where COP30 is going to be in a year's time. This is where a bunch of politicians who think that, you know, net zero and smart meters and all this is the way forward, despite the fact that it's going to bankrupt the world. This is the way forward. We don't give a toss, and everything we say is BS, because we're going to cut down the Amazon rainforest to bring a road to take our massive cars to drive our lazy backsides to a conference to talk about carbon emissions. I'm not making this up.
It's like feudalism. It's like the old feudalistic system when you had kings and lords and ladies and priests who looked down their noses at the rest of us and told us how to live. That's what environmentalism has become.
Yeah.
Because what you have in the climate change lobby today are these people who, by the way, are getting very rich from the climate change panic. A lot of them are investors in wind power or solar power or other forms of energy. They go to these conferences which are pinnacles of luxury. Private jets go there. They have thousands of people hanging out for a few weeks to talk about the future of the planet. They live lives of absolute luxury. John Kerry, the climate change envoy in the US for the past few years, he flew around on private jets. Prince Harry flew on a private jet to give a speech at some eco-friendly conference. They live it up while condemning the rest of us to a future poverty. Because if net zero were ever to become a reality, people would lose their jobs, this country would lose money, the third world would never be developed in the way that it needs to be developed. So they are condemning huge swathes of humankind to poverty while living it up and pretending to be the saviours of the planet.
And that's a really interesting phrase, and I'd love your take on this, because pretending to be the saviours of the planet. I said it earlier to somebody and they gave me their response. I'd love yours. Why can't a politician go, despite that virtue signalling BS, the fact is, I've got in the I'm sat in number 10 and I've got pensioners who are freezing, I've got veterans who are homeless, I've got farmers whose land is being nabbed by this government because they want to build houses on farmland rather than brown belts. There are plenty of those, by the way. Surely, in my head, I'm thinking, what would work with the British people? Oh, I'll tell you what would work. The Sentencing Council that said you can have your sentence housed if you're brown or you're gay or you're whatever. No, that's ludicrous. I'm going to sack them. Oh, the blob won't let me do what I'm doing. I'm going to get rid of those people because the people that matter are not feeling the effects of this. I'm not going to spend billions on something that's going to increase the cost of your energy bills, because at the end of the day, you're all going to turn around to me and go, you're a liar, you're out of a job. I don't understand it. I genuinely don't understand it. I'm being honest. It's so short-sighted, it doesn't make sense.
I don't get it. I've been saying for quite some time that if there were a politician or a party that would come through and say, listen, I'm going to put more money in your pocket, I'm going to scrap net zero, I'm going to make sure that you're a bit wealthier than you were previously, I'm going to stop looking down my nose at you and attacking your cultural beliefs and your community beliefs, and I'm going to treat you with a bit of respect. If there was a politician who was really serious about doing that, they would take off. People would love it.
Who does that sound like, though? There's the irony. What you just said, that was the inauguration speech of Donald Trump. If you add in there's a man and a woman, that's exactly why so many people love him or loathe the orange man, baby. The fact is that he spoke to a nation of Americans who had not been listened to. I remember, and there are many things he got wrong, but I remember the inauguration speech outside in Washington, first time round, and without turning round, he said, this isn't about the elite from Washington with his thumb over his shoulder. This is about average, everyday working men and women. And I think there are millions of people in this country who would go, can you sort of accept we're struggling? Can you sort of accept that we can't really pay our bills, we don't get to save much, we can't see a doctor, our parents can't afford proper care at the end of life. It's just we see these migrants arriving, getting treated better, taxes going up, everything seems a bit crap. Could you sort of talk and help us? Because we're the people of this country. Oh, no, you can't do that. That's wrong. I don't get it.
It's, you know, what did Trump say in his inauguration speech? And he's already started doing a lot of this, by the way. He said, drill, baby, drill. We will create more jobs and dig up more energy sources. He said, a man is a man and a woman is a woman. He said, we will slice the bureaucracy in half and drain the swamp in a meaningful way, get rid of all these people who are not really doing anything useful. We'll dismantle DEI and judge people by merit rather than by race. He sent out all these signals, and that's why 77 million people, a cross-race group of working class people, voted him into power. The fact that other Western leaders are not taking that hint and thinking to themselves, if we promised growth, if we promised more money in people's pockets, if we told them the truth about biology, then they might vote for us. That they're not thinking that because they're not thinking straight. And I think a politician like Trump, maybe someone who's not quite as gruff and maybe a bit more kind of calm in how he says things, a politician like that could take off in Britain, and I hope one comes forward.
Let's just finish as we've spoken to many people, and in fact you brought us nicely to what's going on. Just your view really of the whole Reform Farage, Rupert Lowe, accusations, thrown out the party, Zia Youssef. The overriding impression of my viewers and listeners, our viewers and listeners here, Brendan, is one of disappointment and concern that they'd found something that they believed was worth tying their hats to, that they felt so disillusioned after 14 years of Tory failure. They were immensely determined that we would not see another 5 years of this horrendous socialist government. Where does it go from here? I mean, people are saying it's his ego, others are saying he's trying to become electable, and that's meant that some of the more extreme oratory is not in his ballpark now. Where do you see this ending up?
I think it's a tragedy what's happening right now, because Reform is the hopeful party for a lot of people, especially working class voters who feel completely betrayed by Labour, the party that was founded to represent them. They see Nigel Farage's party as one of the things they could go for, one of the things that could change Britain for the better. So this internal squabble, I think, is incredibly depressing and very worrying for the future of Reform. I like Nigel Farage. And, you know, one of the things I like about him, I think he's a pretty honest guy. I think he has some good views. I don't agree with everything he says, but I think he has some pretty solid views about the future of this country. And I think he is quite a moderate guy. He's not an extremist. He is constantly being slagged off by extremist people on the internet who want him to be more racist, essentially. They say to him, look, promise to throw out all migrants or else we won't vote for you. That's not what Nigel Farage is about. What Nigel Farage is about is seriously trying to get into power in order to do something about net zero, do something about mass immigration that is out of control, keep the bureaucracy in check, and change politics for the better.
I get that. I want to jump in though, and because you used a phrase that I think is very relevant. He's about getting into power so that he can enforce the change that he knows we all need in this country. However, in doing that, perhaps speaking more outrageously less, because there's no doubt Rupert Lowe saying all Muslims should indeed be, you know, that's ridiculous, OK? There should be deportations by illegal migrants in this country who, let's be honest, right, let's be absolutely honest, are taking away stuff that people in this country are going without. I get all of that, but Nigel, in trying to be elected, if you like, is alienating a part of that party. Does he need that part of the party? Can he be successful if that extreme angle that's my issue, because like you, I think it's a bit of a tragedy right now. I think it needs sorting.
I think there's always a danger that in trying to be electable, you kind of sell off some of your principles. And maybe there's something going on there as well. But at the same time, you do have to...
Oh, how bad was that? Literally gone. So brilliant to have him on. Always great to have him on. Agree with almost everything he ever says. Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer for Spike. Check him out, 6:21. We're live across the UK. Are we going to take some calls when we come back after the break? If you want to get your call on, by the way, 0344 499 1000. Kev says, evening, Jez. So let me get this right. They're cutting down lots of things that are natural carbon captures like trees, so they can build a road for them to drive on after flying in private planes where they can sit down and discuss how to reduce carbon emissions. And yet my bills are going up. It makes no sense. No, net zero doesn't make any sense. What it will do is screw you in the pocket, make people lose their jobs, but people like Ed Miliband will feel or believe that this makes us a better country or him a better person or us better people. I don't give a stuff. Deal with pensioners, you stupid man. Talk drive.
I think what Kemi's doing, in all honesty, is saying, how do we stop any of the pull factors that are bringing people to the shores? So yes, we know we've got to stop the illegal immigrants. We would have the Rwanda scheme, and I'd still bring back the Rwanda scheme or replace a third country you could send them to. So this is another way in saying, if you do come here, it's not going to be the free ride you thought it was. You're going to have to pay back your housing costs.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:25. We're live across the UK. Talk Drive is on. We say a very good evening, Conservative South Holland and the Deepings. Sir John Hayes. John, how are you?
Very well. I'm voting in the House of Commons. The bell is ringing as we speak behind you. So this is real live action. You're getting a word from the front line here.
Really appreciate you being on. I know that the sort of FaceTime thing couldn't happen, so we've got you on the phone. I'm delighted to get you on. There's so much I want to talk to you about. How much time have you got, John?
Well, I've got a vote in about 7 minutes' time, so we've got 7 minutes. Or you can, I can vote, and you can call me again if you like. But let's do it now.
Take me with you while you're voting. Let's start with finally, common sense might seem to be prevailing in the United Kingdom. The Bank of England today scrapping planned diversity rules amongst city firms among a global backlash over just liberal, I'm going to use the wrong word, madness. What seems to be so detrimental to so many businesses. Finally, companies like the Bank of England waking up. This wokeness needs to stop in terms of productivity, doesn't it? Growth, success.
Yeah, I mean, it's about recruiting the brightest and the best, isn't it? So when a business, whether it's Bank of England or anywhere else, recruits, you shouldn't be first looking at whether someone's black or brown or white or male or female. You should be looking, are they the best person to do the job? And that kind of is what businesses have always done. Merit matters. And once you conclude that merit matters less than something else, it's not surprising when you get less capable people and productivity dips, as you said. So great to recruit people from all walks of life, all backgrounds and so on, but let's make sure they're the best of the job.
It's interesting, isn't it? I said earlier on the show, I can understand in the past why these things were looked at, but you would be honest, you've been a politician a long time. We've gone the other way to the detriment. I mean, people don't like me saying this, but I had somebody from a major television network say to me 3 weeks ago, if you're 25, white and male, and you come out of college with a journalistic degree, right now you're screwed. And it's about time people were honest about that. I want it to be on ability and merit, as you quite rightly say. As, my friend John, as Donald Trump said in his inauguration speech, it shouldn't be on anything other than your ability, should it?
Well, we've got MPs from all kinds of backgrounds, and this not only includes race and sex, of course, it includes class. You know, I come from a working class background. I decided to take my Conservative MP when I was a small child on a council estate in South East London, and I got there, and I've been an MP now, as you say, for 27 years. And so that's because I worked hard. I fulfilled my ambition by a combination of assiduity, a little bit of luck. There's always a bit of luck in these things, isn't there? And a level of determination, and I hope some quality too. And wherever people start, whatever their origins or background, they deserve opportunity. So yes, of course, let's open up opportunity as wide as we possibly can. But let's not have box ticking.
Absolutely. Why do you? I mean, look, don't take it wrong, but you know it's good and bad. The Tories were in power for 14 years. Why didn't they do more to deal with this madness, this DEI madness, man?
Well, as you know, I started raising this long ago when we were in government. So I've been on this crusade for many years, and that includes the period you're describing. So it's not really about the government. It's more actually about the kind of bodies you're describing. It's the corporate world, particularly guilty. It's some of the agencies, the non-governmental agencies, the big organisations, some private sector, some public sector. And I don't think when it was directed by politicians, but you're right. Sometimes politicians should have done more to stop it.
We've talked about DEI. Can I talk about my other pet hate quickly? Net zero. I don't pretend to be intelligent like you lot in Parliament, but I don't understand why a succession of politicians seem to think that the British public are going to continue to stomach the spending of billions of pounds or the being forced to have meters in your house or whatever it is, when patently we were told our bills would go down and our bills are going up. If I was a farmer, I would absolutely believe this government is trying to grab my land to build wind farms, which, by the way, won't create enough electricity, so we'll have to import it, and that again will be more cost. Why is that? And it was at some parts in the Tory party. Johnson, I think, can be accused of this. Where is this sort of we need to prove to the world that we're net zero perfect when average men and women on the streets of Great Britain, Sir John Hayes, are struggling to see a doctor, pay their bills, and old people are freezing to death? I don't understand it. I never have.
Well, it's because, it's a complicated question, and it's complicated for this reason. In a world that has become less spiritual, in a world where people have become typically less religious, you have to find new things to worship. And the climate has become our God.
Yeah.
We worship it because it's immense, it's ethereal, it inspires guilt. People who challenge the orthodoxy are regarded as heretics. It has all of the emblems, doesn't it, of religion. And unfortunately, also encourages a kind of quasi-religious zeal. Of course we should be responsible about energy. Of course we should be responsible about the climate. But let's not do that at any cost, particularly when that cost is borne by ordinary working people.
And it's about, and it sounds very much like the DEI thing in this quest to I mean, you know, there's this. Have you heard this crazy story today in Brazil, where this COP30 is going to be? They're building a new 4-lane highway cutting through tens of thousands of acres of Amazonian protected forest, so they can build a highway big enough to take the big cars that'll take the people who have arrived in their private jets to drive down this road to go to a hotel to talk about carbon emissions and how they can save the bleeding planet. You can't even make this rubbish up. It's ludicrous.
Sorry. Now, rather as your first subject, I talked just a moment ago about zeal. You know, there is a kind of sense in which people are very attracted to your crusade. The diversity and inclusion crusade has been pursued with that kind of zeal. And it's true, too, that the preoccupation with the weather, which we obliged to call the climate these days, it has a similar feel about it. So beware of crusades is the only crusade worth fighting is a crusade for virtue, and we're all on that I think persistently. But so look, I agree that a lot of these fashionable liberal establishment preoccupations are not shared by the vast majority of hard-working patriotic law-abiding Britons.
And I'll tell you what I believe absolutely is that whatever your political persuasion, whatever your political belief, that politicians need to not just stand there and say, we need to think about the British people. They need to understand the British people are gathering confidence, and they want answers to immigration. They want answers to ridiculous net zero spend. They want answers to DEI, the things that you've been talking about. And I think it's going to be an incredibly interesting time, because I feel like people are empowered to actually now say what they feel without fear or favour. I genuinely believe that, John. I really do.
Yeah, I think there's two things. I mean, I think the gulf between people with power and those whose power they affect is greater in this generation than it's been previously. It's grown throughout my lifetime, actually, and it is because of the dominance of a liberal establishment who don't share the preoccupations of the wider public and despise actually their sentiments. I think the second thing is, as you draw attention to, people are now recognising that, and the big turning point, of course, was the Brexit referendum. There's been quite a lot of academic work on this. The Brexit referendum marked an eye-opening, and it's exactly the way you described. So many people don't leave her open.
John, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. The line is gone. Absolutely sorry, Jodie. Can you apologise? But the line was really difficult. But Sir John Hayes, who has quite rightly, Tory MP for South Holland and the Deepings, talked religiously, excuse the pun. He formed the Common Sense Group because he was fed up with DEI, he was fed up with net zero, he was fed up with the government spending ridiculous amounts of money and missing the point. Really appreciate him being on. Let's go to David quickly, a new caller, 0344 499 1000. David's in Scotland. David, good evening, how are you?
I'm not bad, Jeremy, yourself.
What?
Not too bad, yourself.
Not too bad for a 60-year-old man, sir. What can we do for you on Talk Drive?
Well, I'm not far behind you, but my mum does fancy the pants off you.
Your mother fancies the pants off me. How old is she?
She's 76, fortunately.
I haven't got any on.
All right.
I'm only messing. Don't start now. Right, what do you want to say?
Well, I'm just thinking this stuff that's coming out with laws and that, and of course, etc., regarding white males as being sort of at the back of the queue. I'm 53, to be honest, but I was a late starter. I've got two wee boys who are 10 and 12 who are very intelligent. They lost their mother in 2017, so I'm trying to promote them into whatever electrical game that I'm in, or university, or anything like that. But it seems like I'm not going to make it with them.
I think the point that I know you're making, I think you would. I mean, I've got 6 kids. I worry for my kids every single day. Things are becoming almost in this country seemingly impossible. But I do believe, and I just want to make this point, not because the Bank of England today have announced they're going to, cut out diversity plans. Not that BP 2 weeks ago went, you know what, all this net zero crap is a waste of time. I believe the British people. I genuinely believe this, hand on heart. That's why I say it here. I think the British people are finding their voice. I think the politicians have to understand, whatever, I said it just now to Sir John Hayes, whatever your political persuasion, I think you have to understand, politicians, that we're not prepared to accept a lot of this crap anymore, and that we will, as parents, as voters, as whatever, we will have our say. David in Scotland, thank you very much indeed. 24 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is Talk Drive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Talk about, as ever on this show, Kev will continue it from 7 o'clock. He'll come from some angle. I've said all day, I mean, whatever you want to talk about, it's down to you. It's 0344 499 1000. And hello to Simon McCabe. Simon, she has a good point about climate change and the new road ripping down trees. To meet that net zero target, we are now talking about timber-framed housing. Are we? Oh, right. This is where patently I absolutely know nothing. So to meet a net zero target, peeps, according to Simon McCabe, we're going to have to build, right? We're going to have to build timber frame housing, which, as he says, surely means you're going to have to knock down trees. Surely that's a fire risk and isn't good for the environment. Honest to God, it's just virtue signalling, isn't it? David in the Cotswolds, Jez, Mikey O'Sullivan, this is the great story. I don't know, you might not be a racing fan, but there was a young man called Michael O'Sullivan, a beautiful young Irish guy who was a jockey, and 2 years ago he ran this massive race at the Cheltenham Festival on a horse called Marine Nationale. He was sadly killed 2.5 months, 3 months ago in a racing accident, and the whole of Ireland sort of came together to celebrate his life, and today that horse won the big race, the Champion Chase. Incredible scenes at Cheltenham. I just found out from David in the Cotswolds that his brother, Michael O'Sullivan's brother, is riding tomorrow a horse called Walking on Air. Can you imagine, says Michael, David in the Cotswolds, the reaction that if that horse crosses the line first? Absolutely. Hello to Peter Mills. Nigel Farage isn't prepared to listen. His ego won't let him. Pete from Norfolk. God, people have so many opinions about Farage. Maybe he is right to keep his head down. Let's go to Croydon, which is always brave. Peter, a very good evening, sir. How are you?
Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
Hello, Pete. Right, but shush. Let me ask the question that, frankly, right, very important question from Ryan and I. I'm West Ham, he's Watford. Who do you support?
Crystal Palace.
Get off, and don't come on again. Get off. No, I'm joking. You're having a good season. What would you like to say on Talk Drive, Pete?
Yes, Jeremy. The tariffs. The reason why America put in tariffs on Canada is because of the amount of fentanyl coming into America.
Well, that's what Trump says. He says he's taking control because over the Canadian border the drug fentanyl is big. I mean, I don't know whether that's a fact check. I don't know, but that's what he says.
But my point is, I think Trump is putting tariffs on us because he wants to. He's going to tell Starmer, cancel the Chagos Islands and I'll cancel the tariff.
Well, you see, I will say one thing, which is really interesting, because I thought that the Chagos deal would go out the door and he would just say no. The thing about Donald Trump, if you think about throwing Zelensky out of the White House the other day, that dreadful spat that was on television, and then within 96 hours, you know, Zelensky's going, no, I'm sorry. And I'm thinking, why are you apologising? I think Trump is that archetypal sort of businessman, some would say bully, who literally says and does whatever to get a reaction and doesn't give a toss, excuse my French, whether he upsets people along the way. And whether that's tariffs on countries or whether it's... I mean, look at the Ukraine thing. I'm going to stop intelligence and I'm going to stop munitions, and 24 hours later it's back and they're saying, yes, we'll do whatever you want. I think he's a bull breaker. I think he's a dealer. What I find fascinating is how Starmer is going to, or is in fact dealing with Donald Trump, because I don't know. He's just one of those people, isn't he? And the reason that I continue to sit here and support him is not that I like all that he does, but what I like is that he doesn't actually deviate from what he says he's going to do. And I will spend every last moment that I've got here telling people that if we had politicians who stood by what they believed in, I think our country would be in a better state, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely, Crumbs. Starmer, you can tell he's intimidated by Trump when he speaks. He goes all and ah, doesn't he?
Yeah,
you know,
he's not that sort of inspiring a person. Really appreciate you calling. Good luck to Palace in the rest of the season. Jez, Sally, Isla White here. John Hayes was a very interesting guest. Great show. Until these politicians start attending COP via Zoom instead of armies of officials going on private planes, I can't take any of them seriously and won't listen to any rubbish that comes out of their mouths. Ryan, wasn't it right that the Labour Party took over 400 officials with them to COP29? Imagine how much carbon emissions that... I mean, to achieve what would be my question, Sally. Let's go to Kirsten in London. Kirsten, good evening. Welcome to Talk Drive. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
What?
How are you?
God, bloody hell. You nearly swallowed the phone then. I was terrified. Move your mouth back from the bits. Honestly, I felt quite threatened there. I'm joking. I'm not that lily, but I'm all right. Not bad. How are you? You had a good day?
Yeah, very busy.
Yeah? What'd you do?
Yeah. I do market research.
Oh, right, OK. Market research. From home. Yeah, I know. I've got it. I've got that sorted. That'll be my job one day. Right, what we got? What do you want to talk about?
You were talking with Brendan about white British male being sort of segregated.
Yeah.
So as we've talked about before, I'm Hispanic. I'm from Honduras. So my kids are half Hispanic, half white British. And whenever my husband says to take on the, whenever you have to put in the ethnicity for whatever reason, he says take on the white British, and I say no. A few weeks ago, I realised that one bit of me is because I am Hispanic and the roots, but mostly when it comes to our son, is because of that, because I'm fearful that they will start pushing him to the side.
Do you believe, this is a really interesting question to ask a Hispanic woman married to a white British husband, do you believe, and it's such a contentious issue, by the way, you wouldn't believe this, do you believe there are signs in this country of anti-white Britishness? Because that's what Brendan O'Neill was talking about, that certain people from white backgrounds are now, unfortunately, and I don't agree with what happened in the past, but I think we've gone the other way. Do you think that's a proven fact, yes or no?
100%. I've been telling my husband this for years because I was noticing, and he kept saying, and that's the thing, but I have kept telling him for years that British white first world country guilt in the US, in France, in the UK. I've noticed it since I was a kid when I used to live in my country, and now it's just on the surface.
Very interesting point.
I kept telling him, and he didn't believe me. Now he believes me. So, Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
Because it shouldn't have gone this
It should
way.
be, as Donald Trump said, on merit. We really appreciate the call. Kirsten in London, thank you. Got a new caller. Somerset. Maria, good evening. How are you?
Thank Jeremy.
Whereabouts in Somerset?
A small town called Bridgewater.
A small town called Bridgewater?
Yeah.
It's hardly small, love, is it? It's where I started my career. It's where my parents lived before they died. Somerset's close to my heart. Bridgewater. I have a joke about Bridgewater, but I can't do it on the radio, so I'm not going to. Welcome to Drive on Talk. First time caller. What would you like to say?
On the back of what you were talking about with Farage and Rupert Lowe.
Yes.
Infighting earlier. I don't agree with any of their stances on immigration. I don't believe that we should speed up the process to deport people in about a week or so, as you were saying, Eva.
You don't believe we should what?
Sorry, I don't believe we should try and speed up the process to deport people in a week or so.
Why?
I believe what we need is a system that speeds up the process for people to get citizenship to the UK so that they can work and contribute to the economy.
Right, listen, you're a first-time caller, and the beauty about any debate is that everybody has a different view. But let me put this to you. Half of the reason that people are so up in arms about the immigration issue, and I agree with you that at times rhetoric can overtake fact, is this. Our public services are on their arse. There are pensioners freezing. There are genuinely veterans homeless. There are farmers losing their businesses. The reason people are frustrated about immigration at its core is that these people are coming to this country and being treated better, it's a fact, than people who've been here all their life and paying their tax. But you're saying to me we should do more to make them citizens. I think we should make it harder for them to be citizens, and we should get rid of the ones who are basically nothing more than people taking advantage and criminals, and look after the people who've been here all their lives, no?
Well, yeah, I don't agree that. I don't agree with the stopping the winter fuel payments for elderly people either, and I also don't agree with not helping homeless veterans. So I think what we have is a welfare party crisis rather than an immigration crisis, where even now the government wants to decrease the eligibility for PIP. So we're already in the next 4 weeks. So we're it goes into of disabilities and not giving them support they need.
I tell you what, listen, everybody's got an opinion, and I'm delighted to have you on. I think there's many problems with this country, and I will say one thing. I think we can become fixated on immigration because it's an easy target. I get that. I've heard what you said about wealth inequality, and I don't disagree with that. But we currently have a government that would do nothing more than increase tax for anybody who's ever made a success of their lives or anybody that runs a business, and that's no way to do it. However harsh this sounds, Maria, we as a country are skint, and we are struggling to provide, I believe, the services and the treatment for people without having other people here, however hard that sounds. And you would also understand the sentiment that says that when people are on a beach in France in a tent, the thought of a 4-star hotel in England is far more attractive, and that unfortunately is where we're at. But I do take your points, and I really appreciate you being on. Maria from Bridgewater in Somerset, 10 to 7. Kev's here at 7, by the way. Kevin O'Sullivan is here at 7 o'clock.
Oh, which one was he?
Stop doing this to me every night. Kevin O'Sullivan, you know who he is. He's here at 7 o'clock tonight, and he's followed by Petri Hoskins at 10. This is Talk.
a lot of the case that's been made for the way that Trump has been putting pressure on Ukraine over the last few weeks, it's been hard to sometimes understand what Trump was doing. But the basis of justifying what Trump was doing was that Russia would agree to some sort of ceasefire. It was Ukraine that was the problem. Well, let's now test Russia and to some extent Trump, because Ukraine has done the right thing, has agreed to a ceasefire without any conditions at all. The other good thing in this statement is that America's agreed to resume security assistance to Ukraine.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
If you could have heard the conversation, can I say a big thank you this week to the amazing team at the back? I say at the back, at the front. Ryan, who had a nasty turn earlier, he's off to where are you going to? The Netherlands? He's going to Ireland. It's not in the Netherlands. He's going to Ireland for the weekend. He's going to drink plenty of Guinness, take his wife with him. Jodie, who's fantastic, whose father works in Bridgewater. It's very, very bizarre. We didn't know that. Is he indeed her father? And Mozzie, who still hasn't been asked to get married. And Amy, whose dream, I've just found out Smiler's dream is to go to Australia. We need to make it happen. We need a GoFund page. Let's send Amy to Oz, never to return. 0344 419 1000. Let's go to the phone lines. We're heading to Cornwall. Nice. Ella, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not bad. Whereabouts in beautiful Cornwall?
Oh, Camborne. Beautiful
Camborne. Now, the thing is, I'm going to do my impression. My favourite comedian in the world ever was Jethro. And the greatest sketch ever was The Train Don't Stop Camborne Wednesdays, and I don't think it ever will.
Gosh.
He was a legend. Camborne. I'm so excited to have somebody on from Camborne. That's brilliant. What can we do for you?
Yeah, so I heard you talking earlier about the hypocrisy of COP, and I just wanted to add, I'm with you on that, but I had two more points as well that I wanted to bring up.
Of course.
First, like the last one, it was hosted in Baku, in
Azerbaijan. I know, I can't even say it either. Yes, it was. COP29 was in Baku, in Azerbaijan, where our new Prime Minister took 400 officials, by the way.
Yeah, and, one of the oil capitals, issues with human rights. I don't think oil companies should really have a seat at the table when we're talking about climate emissions. And then also, going on to your point of Keir Starmer, and I do think it is, the hypocrisy there of him, trying to be a world leader on a global stage when he's not really committing to a Green New Deal here. He's not really done enough, I don't think, in my opinion.
Forgive me, because I'm going to sound like my dad, who's dead. That didn't sound right, but I know what I meant. Are you the younger generation? You're younger, aren't you? I mean, how old are you? Am I allowed to ask that?
Yeah, I would say I'm younger.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
Are you into this whole net zero thing, or do you think we should be looking after people in this country and dealing with the problems we've got in the United Kingdom first and foremost?
I guess my opinion would be they're like one and the same. I think we can have a just transition. I think we can have green jobs, especially for my generation, We really want jobs that are good for the climate and also, pay us well. And I think that this can be achieved if the government has the, drive to do this.
Very interesting. Really good to have you on. And by the way, Kevin O'Sullivan will agree with me. Camborne is one of the best and prettiest looking places in the United. Have you been to Camborne, Kevin O'Sullivan?
Hang on a second. Bear with me.
He can't get it in. God, honestly.
Can't get it in, yeah. Camborne. Where is Camborne?
Cornwall.
Oh, yeah.
Remember Jethro, the comedian? His famous skit was "Train Don't Stop Camborne Wednesdays," and I don't think it ever will. Listen, Ella, thank you very, very much indeed. Very good to have you on. Ella in Camborne. Don't you remember, Jethro? You were a TV critic.
Yeah, I do. Now you remind me.
You were the world's greatest TV critic. You criticised me the old time.
Genuinely, I thought I was the second best. Ali Ross was the best. Still is.
Strangely, he always said that as well. How are you, kid? I feel like I need to go to therapy, because I've got to the point where I sit here every day and I feel like we get most of our priorities wrong in this country, whether it's DEI or it's net zero. But my favourite story of the whole day, which is, I'm sure you're going to do, is the new 4-lane highway cutting through tens of thousands of acres of protected Amazonian forest being cut down to build a road for COP30.
Well, the climate crisis, the alleged climate crisis, net zero, it is just a swirling mass of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
and I'm not sure anybody's really committed to it. They're just making money out of it.
And costing the British taxpayer
And talking
money.
about your frustrations with British society today, unfortunately and worryingly and disarmingly, apparently Keir Starmer's going to make this massive reset speech today.
Oh, God, what does that
where
mean?
he's going to outline his plans to completely recalibrate British society. So be careful, folks. You have been warned there may be trouble ahead.
Honestly, is that really what he's going to do?
Yeah, he's going to make some massive speech for resetting the whole British state.
So that means that he's basically admitting that everything he's done in the first 120 days has been a load of old crap. Now, you know your life as a TV critic.
Yes.
I was sent by Lindsay today some pictures from yesteryear that she wanted signed, and I thought that I would give you one.
Oh, thank you.
As an appreciation. You can take that. You handsome thing. Take a bit fat on the belly. You can take that home to Shay O'Sullivan and throw darts at it. There you are.
No, I will throw darts at it.
Yeah, absolutely. It won't be the only thing you've thrown darts at. Right, crack on. What else, me old son?
Well, we're going to start off with Farage. I've been telling our disappointed listeners, audience, since Friday when it happened, live on air when I was doing Drive, that there would be no way back for Rupert Lowe. I think loads of our audience have cherished this hope, this dream that Rupert and Nigel can get round the table, go for dinner and sort this out.
I think most of our audience and listeners just want reform to succeed. I think they're interested in an alternative.
Well, first of all, there is no way back from them. Nigel has now said that.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I'm hearing that reforms